All right, I think we have all the attendees in, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give you a little bit of the layout of your screen. This is a little bit different than the typical Teams interface that you're used to with this webinar. Up at the top, on the top bar, you can see a Q&A button. If you have any questions for our presenter, go ahead and use that Q&A button. We'll do questions at the end of the presentation. So yeah, you'll just tap that button and type your question there, and I'll be the moderator at the end. So I want to jump into the introduction. We have an awesome presenter today. We're excited to have Beth Medlin McMail here with us. She is with MDI Lubes out of the Midwest. And Beth, I'm going to let you do your introduction, but we know Beth at Redlist here. We've worked with MDI in the past, and Beth has extensive experience in not only in the lubrication space, but also asset health, and specifically around kind of reliability solutions. So Beth, I'm going to turn the time over to you. Please expand on my introduction and take it away with your presentation. We're excited to learn from you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the attendees that signed up. Just appreciate that. This is really something we're excited about getting into and offering to our customers and even potential customers about how we could help them. And time is always a tough thing for people, so I just very much appreciate that. So I have been working with Morgan for almost 30 years and done just about everything involved in lubricants, from industrial plants to commercial vehicle heavy duty, even some passenger vehicle time when I first started. But I grew up in Southern Illinois, and I have a double degree in biology and chemistry, and I've just spent a lot of time really enjoying my career in especially in industrial lubrication. I know, Tal, I know you guys have been working with industrial plants for a long, long time. And the one thing that I know I learn every day from my customers. I learn things from them, and I feel like I've learned a lot from them over the years, and I've tried to listen to them and really tried to build a lot of the programs, excuse me, that Morgan uses based on things that I have heard they need. I believe there is so many of my customers that truly care about their plants, that truly care about how they run, the efficiency of them, the organization and the safety, and just the effectiveness of their overall lubricant programs. And so I wanted to just put a few things together today to just target that, and would just love that dialogue there at the end. If there's questions, just look forward to seeing what those might be, and hopefully you guys all get something out of spending your time with us today. So this section I'm doing today is called Ensuring Lubricant Quality Through Effective Storage and Handling. So it's kind of a mouthful when it comes to all the possibilities with how we deal with our lubricants in industrial environments. And after 30 years, I can say that a lot of it has changed. And there's just been technology changes. There's been, safety and requirement changes that have all been really good for the industry. When it comes to companies like Redlist and the other partners that Morgan utilizes, I've tried to put together a nice select group of partners that focuses in on the things that I feel like are the greatest assets that Morgan can offer. And Redlist definitely being one of those. So when we talk about ensuring the quality of the lubricants, we literally have to start at the very beginning, right? I mean, not only what does a good contamination program actually look like, and people generally think of it from being inside the plant, right? I mean, how you use it, how you put it in, how you take it out, whether you filter it, whether you take good care of it, whether it's leaking. But the reality is that all of those things actually start from the very beginning. They start from the delivery of oil to a plant, to a customer, and just the simple way of how they're storing them. A lot of my customers have great lube rooms and stuff now, but we still have a lot of customers that store drums, kegs, buckets outdoors. And by using simple methods, if that is truly what you're doing and you have to store your lubricants outdoors, utilizing like a drum tip kind of method, I mean, pretty simple setup. The guys here in the picture there to the right, they just used some wooden 4x4s, and the drums are tipped so that water does not set on top of them. You see the other picture where obvious contamination has set on top of that drum, whether it be other oil or, dirty rags or whatever it may be. And those bungs and seals on those drums will actually allow ingression. They actually allow that contamination to get in. So a good contamination program literally has to start at the very beginning. And if we don't store it properly, then we're kind of defeating the whole purpose of a good contamination program. This is actually a couple of pictures of one of my really good customers. This is a lube room and setup that I did a few years ago. And this lube room type thing, you can spend $5,000 or $55,000 on, really nice tanks and setups. But obviously, if they're not handled correctly, coming in and putting them in the tanks correctly, are we really accomplishing that final goal? So we work to set up a lot of the lube rooms with the correct filtration and creating rooms that people are actually proud of. We've just seen so many of these rooms that if you make them nice and you make them easy to use, and the customers have some, take some value and pride in utilizing them, then you will see a downstream advantage. You will see a downstream efficiency advantage, a lower contamination rate. You'll see less of you can just easily avoid, I guess, some of those contamination things, because it actually does start right here in the beginning. So some benefits of product lubricant consolidation. Obviously, one of the things that we look at when we first go into a plant, or even every few years, because some of my customers I've had for 20 plus years now, and by the time you get new equipment and people have left and new people have come, there's always different ideals and different things that have changed. So every few years you even need to just take a good look around and see if there is been an abundance added of more lubricants, whether they're oils or greases. And each time you get a new piece of equipment, sometimes, the warranty states you got to have this or that. Well, so we're adding another product. So there's this evolution doesn't just happen in the beginning when we first start working with our customers, but it needs to happen every few years to just make sure that we are truly keeping the best consolidated list of lubricants. And when it comes to a company like Redlist working with our customers, they can help not only keep that list, but also be able to tie it efficiently with the assets. And when we actually keep this low lubricant consolidation, and we actually keep a minimal number, I guess, of oils and greases used within a facility, we can lower the cost of inventory. We can reduce the administration, the paperwork. We can reduce mistakes when lubricants are often, just grab something because you think it's usually setting right there, and that's the one, you grab, whether it's an oil or a grease. The tagging, the asset management, all of those things, if you have 5 choices versus 10 choices, you can definitely see there's a concern about, what product you're grabbing to put in the right place. When you have a nice consolidated list of lubricants used in your facility, you can also reduce the concern about compatibility. We are very aware that there are multiple types of lubricants. Whether you're talking about oils, there are a whole set of types of base materials that are used. Whether you're talking about a grease, when there's different thickeners that are used, there's about 14 different types of thickeners that are used in greases alone. Many of those are not compatible with one another. When we have 5 to 7 greases in a plant, it's highly likely that there's going to be an incompatible product. So asset management becomes very key in making sure that we do not utilize products that are incompatible with one another. Technology's offered us many ways for us to utilize product choices. We want to make sure that the product choices actually fit the plant's goals. That's also where Redlist can just be a great partner with us. And we've seen how they can tie together the goals for the plant into asset management that has been a great advantage for our customers. So how clean should your oil be? I know one of the things that we discussed when putting together this webinar is about the fact that a lot of product, new oil being the beginning of the contamination stream, is how clean is it? How clean is it when you get it? How clean should we keep it? And then using the correct maintenance programs, are we using oil analysis to determine when we really need to change it or filter it? Maybe it can be saved. Maybe it can't. Those are decisions that could cost plants $2,000 or $22,000, right? I mean, we're making a lot of decisions based on maintaining and managing our assets. Some of those decisions, like in this slide, I'm targeting particle count. So we're talking about truly setting efficiency goals for the equipment. We know that there's a lot of data surrounding the fact that if we keep our oils clean, I often in trainings talk about how they're kind of like blood in your body, right? When we keep our cholesterol in check and we eat right, things like that, get the right amount of exercise, we're going to stay healthy. Machines are really no different, right? The oil has to be healthy. We have to keep it clean. We have to keep it free of contamination. We have to keep it free of moisture. And there's many ways to achieve those things. Utilizing good filtration, the correct breathers. There's just lots of different ways that we can really target that and target that healthy goal. So I don't know if some of you guys have really seen where contamination is read on an oil analysis sheet, but in an oil analysis, you can often see the isoparticle count in numbers. So you'll have 3 numbers. Different European standards are utilizing 2 numbers these days, but we still see a lot of the 3 number categories. So this particle count, the simplest way to understand it is that the higher the numbers, the dirtier the oil is. And for gearboxes example, about 3/4 of the way down the page there, in the gray, it's gearboxes. Particle count target level of 19, 16, 13. A lot of people don't realize when you get new oil, we may actually deliver it to you much higher than that already. There's a lot of standards for cleanliness, and it's clean. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not good clean oil. It is good clean oil. But could it be even cleaner? And we've developed so much data around the fact that if we keep it really, really clean, right, better than we received it clean, then we can actually increase the life of those gearboxes. We can increase the life of those pumps and those turbines. And utilizing good filtration, utilizing, low contamination methods, whether it be using quick couplers and things like that on the assets themselves, so that you're never leaving things open to the environment. You can there's just a lot of ways you can kind of develop this contamination-free environment. We like to coin it clean to machine, right? But the idea is truly that when you receive it, we maybe should be filtering it right away. I have a lot of customers that are utilizing that technology already, so that we filter it before we even put it in the gearbox. And that allows us to hit these targets of like 19, 16, 13. I do a lot of courses and training at Morgan, both with our customers as well as here at the corporate office in Decatur, where we really dive into how to achieve some of those things. And like I said, we have chosen specific partners just to try to make sure that, a lot of opportunities are given based on the plant's goal. So many of the plants that we work with have different maintenance styles, maybe different goals overall, but they all want to operate as efficiently as they can. And like I said, I work with a lot of people in these plants that truly care about doing that. So setting your goals, making sure that we're really targeting this idea of operational efficiency, is where we tie in all of the partners that Morgan has kind of formed alliances and strategies with. Deskcase Corporation, Perma, Auto Greasers, and Redlist, ExxonMobil Lubricants, is really the key people. Redlist has a lot of different flexibility in the way that they can set up their programs. Our auto grease company, Perma, they have a lot of new technology advancements as well. So utilizing these partners, I think we can avoid cross-contamination. It has a direct effect. I think we can increase efficiency. And I think we can truly be the best partner that we can be for our plants. So I guess I just want you to kind of think about what your operational efficiency goals should really be. How maybe you already know what they should be, but maybe you don't actually know how to get there. Many of the customers that we work with don't have the time. Maybe the programs that they're working with are labor intensive, and maybe it's purely a manpower issue. So we've tried to set up the reliability program at Morgan with the right lubricants, and then utilizing a partner like Redlist, we can offer them the asset management and the way to at least keep the organizational point right there in front of them at, easy access, so that they have a greater amount of time to work on those things that, maybe apply to other areas of the plant. So I appreciate just being able to present this to you guys, and I would love to see if there are any questions about how we do this.
Yeah, Beth, this has been awesome. There's a lot of questions that have come in for you. So I think if you're okay, we'll kind of transition over to the discussion part. And I think some of the questions are kind of specific to your slides. So I don't know if you'll be able to navigate backwards, but if you can, that would be great. So going back to the first or second slide, I think one of the questions was, Um, are there like any specific stories or experiences that you've had in your career where like doing this poorly, not managing storage and handling well has kind of created a big issue for a customer? I think the audience is kind of fishing for a couple of maybe war stories or examples that that you've seen out there.
Sure, sure. Gosh, there's been a lot of learning time, right? Um, I remember when I was first learning the industrial world, I was taken into a few plants where I got to see some failures, and I almost put a couple of failure pictures in as slides.
Sure.
Um, but something as simple as water ingression. So I was working with a customer in Northern Illinois. They had drum storage outdoors, and they didn't even have tops on them. You see, like in this picture, they're utilizing some just plastic drum
Yeah.
top covers,
Right.
right? Inexpensive, right? Just very inexpensive ways to prevent water ingression.
Right.
So I was working with a customer that kept having foaming issues.
Hmm.
And a lot of times when we think about foaming, you're thinking air entrapment creates foam. You know, there's probably a breather or something that they worked on recently, right? Because it wasn't just like a long-term issue. It had just come up with the last couple of oil changes. So as we dove into it, and you pull an oil sample and you look for moisture, you look for contaminations. Foaming in lubricants, especially in oil, is almost always air entrained from somewhere and then mixed with contamination.
Hmm.
Contamination almost always starts the problem.
Okay.
So whether they, suck in air from the bad breather or a breather that's like the ones I see so much of the time in the industry is these mushroom caps that literally will just keep large bugs out. It's about all they're really going to keep out. Um, what happened with this one was they had kept the drums outdoors. They had not used any kind of protection method. In fact, the drums were setting on these wood type pieces. They were actually setting on like an angle piece of angle iron. And the small side of the drum that has the small bung area was actually the base of the tip. So if you see, if the drum was setting, so if it got rained on, the water was actually going to set right around that small bung seal.
Hmm.
And it took me about 4 trips to the plant before I finally thought, why have I not walked over and checked their storage area?
Hmm.
And sure enough, the last 2 drums that had been, we're getting ready to go in, were
Yeah.
setting all the same way. And the guys were very, very proud of the organization because they were all setting exactly the same way with that small
Right.
bung on the bottom side.
Gotcha.
And when I explained to them that's actually where their water was coming from, and they were putting water in to their system, and
Hmm.
the water was actually creating the foam.
Wow.
It grabs a hold of any contamination it gets and was creating a tremendous amount of foam.
That's interesting that, as a guy, I mean, I've worked out in the field, and I'm ashamed to say that I've been guilty of, carrying clean oil in a dirty container, but a lot of times we shoot ourselves in the foot, thinking we're doing the right thing. But um, thanks for that story. That's a good one. Couple other questions. One, I think that comes up is, can you add a little more specifics, maybe just around like the first steps? Pretend I'm a customer that maybe I'm a serious offender of improper storage and handling, or just don't really have a reliability program. What are some of the first steps I should take? And then also, like, how could MDI help me take those steps, kind of hold my hand and get me going?
Absolutely. It's probably the most exciting thing I get to do. Um, when I come across to, a new opportunity and a customer is willing just to allow me to come in and see what maybe they don't see, it's probably the quickest thing, right? If you walk through your own house every day and maybe don't actually notice the dust, or somebody else walks in, um, but when I get an opportunity to work with a new plant, the exciting thing is to just sit down and understand what their problems are. Have they had any major failures? How experienced are their maintenance team? Because there's steps we can definitely go through to really understand the path they need to get on. The first thing is always a discussion, a good discussion about what their goals are, what they're doing, what problems they've had. Is there a labor issue, from just not having enough people? What do they feel like their problems are? And then we do a plant audit. And the plant audit is the eyes and ears of my team. I have 5 on my team for reliability here at Morgan. And whether it's myself or one of my team members, we would walk through and we would literally look at everything from how you're handling it, where it's being stored, what kind of asset management are you utilizing? Are your assets tagged? Are the critical assets the ones that are truly, getting the most attention? Are we overlooking things? We will look at the breathers. We will look at the grease zerks themselves. Look for the areas of potential contamination. But that plant audit is a very serious dive into what are all the things that we need to do that build the story around this plant. And then we outline a path. And often that path includes starting with training opportunities. We have 3 levels of lubricant training. We have target specific lubricant training, and then stepping into whether we need to adapt pieces of equipment to be able to reduce contamination and increase efficiency through a good oil analysis program. And it kind of just stems from there on down to as simple as, are we really utilizing the right lubricants? Are
Hmm.
we doing the right things that is truly the very best type
Yeah,
of lubricant, for that asset?
right. Yeah, I think that's one thing that I've seen a lot as well as we go out and, obviously we kind of play in a little bit different of space than you, where we're working on the software, but with our experience and knowing folks like yourselves, we've been trained on the importance of this. So we'll walk through a lube room and be like, oh man, there's some real opportunity for people to step up their game and just the way they store their lubricants. And I
That's
think
true.
hypothetically we all want to be there, right? But I'm pretty sure everybody that works at a plant that's listening in here can kind of picture their storage, their lube room, and probably has maybe besides the folks who you're spotlighting on this photo, all of us have, everybody has room for improvement. But
For
there's
sure.
another kind of going to slide 2, kind of about some of the yeah, go one more slide. I think it was some of the pictures of what it looks like. Yeah, this clean lube room. I think a couple questions about kind of labeling and organization. There's a really specific one
Sure.
that we might need to contact the person afterwards. But are there food grade and non-food grade tags that are available? This individual just had an audit this week and was asked about adding these tags to their oil containers, and they need to do that for the gearboxes and bearings. So
Sure. There's so much food industry around us. We gosh, I wouldn't even venture to guess just what a great percentage of the business that we work in, especially out of our Decatur office, is heavily food grade. And utilizing good tags are key. We offer a tagging system that is actually free with the purchase of our products. And that tagging system, we can assist in making sure that, you know, your assets are tagged correctly. We use it's like a credit, about the size of a credit card, and they use both colors and shapes and some plants have like their own, you know, their own kind of nomenclature for their lubricant. Um, Story. You know, they have their own little symbols for hydraulic oil or symbols for grease and gear oils. And we can actually make tags. Those are not free, but we can do that. We've done it for a lot of customers where we make tags for them that are specific to their you know, their kind of own lubricant list. Or you can utilize the free tags that have our product names on them. And to just dive in specifically to that question about food grade versus non-food grade, they're very different colors, so that our food grade products are colored very differently than our non-food grade products to make that an easy way to know that you're choosing the right thing.
Awesome. Well, I think it sounds like maybe I'll have Jared make sure that you get in connection with the person who asked that question after the meeting. So, will you maybe advance forward a few more slides just so I can ask the questions that were specific? Go maybe 2 slides. Yeah, so let's go back one more from consolidation. I know you were there before, but I think just in your presentation, you mentioned, I liked your phrase, downstream effects. And I think one of the questions was elaborating on this concept of good labeling, good organization. What are some of the like specific downstream effects? I mean, aside from not tripping over stuff in the storage room, like how does it affect the business in a big way, I guess, is kind of the question that's being asked.
Absolutely. Um, you know, the whole idea is that you have all these pieces, and I kind of use a book, right? If you have a book, you have many chapters of the book. Um, Oftentimes a plant is doing very well at one chapter, but when they're trying to advance to the second one, you know, maybe we have turnover, different people getting moved to different places, you know, people having new opportunities, so they're moving on. Or even maybe it's a downsizing where they're taking your maintenance staff that was 13 and they're telling you to do the same job with 9. You know, so there's lots of things that we can assist you with utilizing our partners that can fill that gap. So downstream effect, yeah. When you have a good clean product, let's say we filtered it into the bulk tanks at the plant. So it's already got a great high level of cleanliness, and we're utilizing good technique and transferring it into topping off that hydraulic system. And, you know, that hydraulic system may be 500 or 600 gallons. That's a very costly oil change. So what we can do is we can make sure that that oil lasts as long as it possibly can.
Right.
Turbines, for example, are a great area where we do this. 2,000 gallon turbine reservoir is about a $25,000 to $28,000 oil change. And even if we weren't just looking at the financial impact, maybe it's even the labor impact, not having enough manpower during that shutdown time to where you're wanting your maintenance people to focus on fixing this or that, when now we're also saying you need to do that oil change. Well, we can
Yeah.
come in and often we can clean that oil up. So many times the plant is dumping that oil when maybe we could have saved it. So because we kept it very clean when we first put it in, we've already kind of got a jump start in preserving the life of it. But if we use good filtration, whether it be filter carts or panel filtration that is dedicated to a certain unit, then we can actually make that oil last longer. And in doing so, the downstream effect is lower cost, lower
Yeah.
reduced downtime, manpower that can focus on other things. Kind of makes
Right.
sense?
Totally. Another related question, sorry to kind of focus so much on this particular slide, this particular topic, but
Sure.
one of the questions came in about um, construction companies that are, maybe they've got various laydown yards or they've got long-term projects. Do you have any experience, like, have you seen any construction companies that have figured this out where they kind of have limited storage space, it's moving all the time? How do they set up a good storage and handling program when they're moving around and their equipment
You
is spread all
you
over the
got
place?
it. You got it. I have a few customers, especially around the central Illinois area, that are moving from site to site. A lot of different moving parts and a lot of different pieces of equipment, several hundred pieces of equipment that maybe 10 of them operating over here and 20 of them over here, and they're going to move, a week later to a whole new place. So the major areas for those types of companies and that type of asset management is based around the true consolidation of products. A lot of equipment, whether it's Caterpillar, or various other companies, have you may have a variety of actual lubricant choices. Even if you're dealing with a Caterpillar transmission on backhoes, excavators, you actually have a few different choices of lubricants that can be used, whether it's hydraulic, engine, transmission, rear end, whatever it may be, in differentials. There's not just one product choice.
Right.
And that's a great place to start for these guys.
Mm.
You can really look at the best consolidated choice list and then reduce the errors then that happen when they're out in the yard, or maybe you have a lube truck that is consistently going around and doing maintenance in the field on those assets. So the key there is to utilize the right choice of lubricants. And then a few little things, definitely having access to a good portable filtration unit. They're very inexpensive. For a couple of $1,000s, literally, you can have a decent portable filter type unit that you could keep on a lube truck. Um, Breathers are also a big part of it. A lot of guys never really, paid much attention to using even a desiccant type breather on this type of off-highway equipment.
Cool. That's good. So a couple questions for those of us that don't have as much experience in kind of buying tanks and containers and those types of things. Is there like a class of good, better, best? Is there like a shelf life to these? Do you have to, if you buy a tank, do you have to worry about it eventually needing to be replaced, or do they last forever? Can you elaborate a little bit just on the containers themselves? Like, have you
Oh,
ever,
sure.
do you have to be careful about who supplies those to you and those types of things?
Sure. There's just such a huge array of the types of tanks, that I've seen over the years and that even our customers have today. I mean, uh, there's no way to even say they're 90% this or even 50% this type. But, metal tanks are incredibly common. We have a lot of plastic tanks. Um, Either one of them has the potential over the years to either have some ingression of material. So I have a lot of people who use the plastic totes as bulk oil storage. That's fine as long as you started with a new one.
Hmm.
I have a lot of customers who say, well, we had XYZ chemical in there and we flushed it out, we rinsed it out good. Well, the problem is that metal and plastic both are porous surfaces.
Mm.
And those porous surfaces allow for contaminants or that old product, for example, to get in. Perfect example is transmission fluid in passenger vehicle markets, right? It's red. It's
Yeah.
got a dye in it. It's got a dye in it.
Mm.
So when I have a customer that says, well, I have an old ATF tank and I want to use it for engine oil. Well, your engine oil is going to be red for about 5 years if you
Mm.
do that.
Interesting.
Because even if you flush it out really good, you're still going to have some contamination in there. So it's always a good idea to have some sort of inspection opportunities, whether the tank is 5 years or 15 years old. They
Gotcha.
can get rust in them. We often use pumps. If you're going to pump out of a tank that, the 500-gallon like round tanks, the base of those over the years, yeah, there's going to get some rust that's going to be in there. And we try to just not stir it up, if they really want to use that, use that tank. But it's always good to have a good inspection opportunity at some point.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Just a few more questions and then we'll start wrapping up. But can you move over to your cleanliness slide? I think it's a slide or two forward just on on the particle counts. So I think there's a few folks on this side that this might be new. But can you elaborate, like, why are there different target levels per type of equipment, per machine type? Can you describe like why it's different per machine type first?
Sure. A lot of it has to do with historically the way that technology has made these.
Hmm.
So OEMs, 20 years ago, did probably didn't use some of the tighter tolerances in hydraulic systems,
Gotcha.
right?
Okay.
30 years ago, the OEMs didn't maybe have the amount of technology, or we weren't asking them to do more, right? We're asking hydraulic systems, gearboxes, even turbines and pumps. We're asking them to do so much more now, no differently than the vehicles you guys drive, right? It's
Right.
why generally you're showing up at your dealership or your repair garage, and they're putting semi-synthetic or full synthetic oil in them these days. And they weren't doing that when I started driving a car. Well, that was just a few years ago, um, but similarly with this industrial equipment, guys, we we didn't, I don't know if we just didn't take the time back then, but I know 20 years ago when I was really starting to understand and dive into the hydraulic systems and gearboxes and efficiencies of working with customers like Ameren, who has these giant turbines and we need to keep them running, right? The downtime was so costly. And when they're asking them to do more, a lot of it is based on the equipment changes themselves. So, they've found ways to make these pumps work harder, and these hydraulic pumps, work more efficiently and carry more load and handle more pressure. But in doing so, they've demanded us to do better too.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for elaborating on that. We did have one more question come through on the previous topic that might have you elaborate on. I'll just read it. But the comment was, one thing that I've been suspicious of is large tanks with flat bottoms without a bottom drain that are used to store oil from equipment during maintenance. Then it gets transferred back to the equipment. If we don't actually clean the tank out between uses, it wouldn't take much water or other contaminants, an eighth of an inch on the bottom, to impact the oil going back into the equipment. And so, do you have any thoughts or
Oh,
any?
sure. And that's a great question because so many of our products are designed to shed water. When we're dealing with especially hydraulics or bearing circulating type fluids, those are designed to shed water, right? They're designed to not mix with water. We have some products that are specifically designed to mix with water, right?
Mm.
But in those applications and the majority of our industrial applications, there is a lot of tanks with flat surfaces. And if you do have, any kind of petcock or drain valve, opportunity, then and you suspect that maybe there's water there, then, and water got in somehow, then when you let that oil set, even for 8 to 12 hours, then it will start to shed that water to the bottom. And I always tell people, if you're concerned that maybe there is moisture there and we don't have time to take an oil sample, or maybe you do this in tandem with the good analysis program because your plant is hot, condensation builds, likeliness it's going to happen, then you open that drain and oftentimes you'll see some water come out. And as soon as you start to see the oil come out, shut her up because you've at least, drained that water off. When it comes to your the comment and the question specifically about transferring it back into the equipment, I I think the easiest way to do that efficiently would be to use an inline filter so that you're actually filtering out the water, maybe going in and coming back out.
Mm.
And you could filter water and particulate very easily with an inline filter system.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's perfect. I think we've touched on almost all the questions. There's a few we haven't answered specifically, but they're all really closely related. So maybe for just the last few minutes, Beth, if you wouldn't mind, I think just take the time to tell us a little bit more about MDI. We think so highly of you guys, and so any visitors that are here, we want them to know more about you. I guess just give a shameless plug for MDI, how people can get a hold of you, and start using your services in the future.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Now, Morgan was built over 60 years ago. I think it's 67 or something like that now. We are still a third generation family owned business that I'm proud to be a part of. And, utilizing still some of the family values about who we are and what we do for our customers has allowed me the opportunity to grow and build different programs. Like I said, pretty much based on just hearing what my customers have to say, knowing what their needs are, and seeing if there's some way I can help with that. And 30 years later in sales, we're built on our credibility, and it's been very important to me to try to always live by what I say, and I, like I said, I've learned so much from my customers in doing so. So when Morgan put together our reliability program, we started about 8 to 10 years ago, but we really only targeted full fluid management. And full fluid management is, when we actually have an employee that checks in every day, 40 hours a week to one specific plant, and they monitor that plant. They're doing inventory, they're ordering, they're pulling samples, and basically just being a big part of the maintenance program in order to specifically target good lubrication on a day-to-day basis. And then it just became more and more apparent that we needed to add things like rentable filter carts, vacuum dehydrators, an oil sampling, program that is actually, our guys pulling the samples, not just providing the bottles. And a lot of that came because I had customers that I know are making these several $1,000 decisions based on that analysis report, when I'm not exactly sure they even truly understood what
Sure.
they're reading.
Yeah.
Are they just reading the comments? I don't know if I would be comfortable as a maintenance manager or a reliability engineer just relying on those comments. That person really doesn't know much about my environment and what I'm living in, what my machines are living in, what my equipment is doing. So I think the reliability birth has been the most exciting latest thing that we have developed. And I'm just excited that we have the opportunity to now to just truly transfer into more than just people who provide the right product for you and will make sure it's the right thing for the right place, but now we can really partner. And that's why I just love the relationships like Redlist, and really appreciate you guys as well.
Well, thanks, Beth. We appreciate you putting together this educational topic for everybody. Again, we'll continue to work with you guys in the future. We're grateful that we know you, and we just think you guys need to keep doing what you're doing. I think it's all
Thanks.
amazing work. So if anybody has any future questions or wants to get a hold of Beth and her team, just maybe reply to the invite you have to this, and myself and Jared can get you in contact with Beth. But with that, Beth, thank you for teaching us all, and we appreciate everybody's attendance. We'll let you all get back to your day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.